Varmt välkomna tillbaka. Nu ska vi hoppa till en annan mycket spännande industri, nämligen medicinteknik och bolaget AcouSort. Och varmt välkommen till dig, Torsten, du är vd.
Yes, thank you very much.
Då får du presentera, så kommer jag tillbaka och ställa lite frågor på slutet.
Okay, yes. Did you know that almost 2/3 of all deaths in the world are caused by 3 top killers? Either people die from cardiovascular diseases, infections, or cancer. So these 3 disease areas in total are responsible for almost 2/3 of all deaths in the world. Why is this? Well, some of the most important reasons is that you get a too late diagnosis, that there's a very labor-intensive testing involved in getting the diagnosis, and also that when you're treated, the treatments are often very expensive. So what can we do about this? What can we do? The solution that AcouSort provides is automated and integrated sample preparation solutions that enables rapid and precise diagnostics or therapeutics. So if you remove those bottlenecks to get faster diagnosis or better and more accurate therapeutics, then you can alleviate these casualties. But let me first introduce a little bit the technology that we use to remove these bottlenecks. We have an automated sample preparation technology based on ultrasound, where we can isolate and purify blood so that you get clean blood plasma, you can get cell populations, you can isolate exosomes or bacteria. And we do this by combining microfluidics with ultrasound. And in this way, we can create a force on the particles in the liquid, in the blood, and in this way, separate them from each other. I show here on the video, you have blood in a microfluidic system, and when you turn on the ultrasound, you focus the particles into the center, and you take out the blood cells in a separate channel, and the plasma in another channel. This is a separation that is needed in order to do 85% of all blood tests. Today it's done manually. We can offer this as an automated technology. Today we have implemented our technology in 2 types of products. We have 2 benchtop systems that we sell to researchers that would like to streamline or automate their sample preparation in their research labs. But our main business model is to work with life science companies, providing OEM components where the technology is embedded, that is then built into our partners' products. In this way, we become the OEM supplier for those partners, and the partners will sell their products to the final users in hospitals and clinics around the world. But let me focus in on the 2 main application areas that we focus on. The first of these is within cell therapies. It's a technology area that's a lot on the rise. And let me just explain what is cell therapy. The idea in this example is that you have a patient in the middle. If you look at the right-hand side drawing, you have a patient that's critically ill with cancer, for instance, leukemia. The idea is that you extract white blood cells, that is this person's immune system. You extract blood cells, white blood cells from the person, and then you train these cells so that they can recognize the cancer as malicious. You expand them so you get a lot of these cells, and then you treat the patient by re-injecting now the trained cells back to the patient Then these cells will recognize the tumor or the cancer and destroy the cancer cells. This is called cell therapy, and has turned out to be a quite or very efficient way of treating certain cancer types. Initially, leukemia has especially been successful. Now, there are a lot of challenges with this specific cell therapy. One of the, some of the challenges are that a lot of what happens in this circular process is very manual. I haven't talked so much about what happens between the different stations, between the extraction and the training and expansion and so on. But here there is a lot of manual processing, like purifications or separations, or up concentrations of the samples or the cells. At the same time, it's very important to avoid that any of these cells are infected bacterially, so that you re-inject bacteria into the patient. These patients are critically ill, and any injection of, of bacteria would, of course, be lethal. So the combination of this highly manual sample preparation and the fact that you have to be very careful about contaminations makes these kind of therapies extremely expensive. One treatment like this is typically priced somewhere between 3 and 5 million Swedish crowns. So it's not strange that this is not very widespread yet, but there are a lot of innovation in this field. Many of the big life science companies strive to expand this into even more disease areas and to reduce prices and time for the process. And where do we then come into play? AcouSort's role in cell therapy is to enable the sample processing and integrate and automate it, so eliminating the need for this manual sample processing and also enabling doing the process in a more enclosed system. And what we contribute is purifying and isolating cells to ensure that only the correct cells are used in the preparations, and also to wash away contaminants and ensure sample quality. However, our initial focus that we focus on right now is to ensure that AcouSort's technology is mature enough to meet the sample volume requirements. We did publish very recently the first collaboration we have entered with a large life science player. This project aims to evaluate and develop our technology so it will suit the purpose as well as possible. The first feasibility project that we run here generates revenue of 150,000 euro already this year, and phase 1 will then be finalized early next year. And we're already starting to discuss extensions of this feasibility. In general, cell therapy has become a very hot area, so we are in discussion with a handful of other potential partners in the same field. They have kind of similar interests among the international players, automating the handling and processing of the cells for cell therapies. And of course, as you heard the price before, 3 to 5 million Swedish crowns, to significantly decrease these costs in order to make this kind of cell therapeutic treatments a lot more widespread and potentially possible for most people. The other big area that we focus on is making diagnostic closer to the patient, faster and closer to the patient. Today, when you go to the doctor for some trouble you think you have, some indications that something you're worried about, and after the consultation, the doctor will say, why don't we take a blood test and have checked some different parameters in your blood. Then usually this can be done in the clinic itself, but then the blood sample that has been taken will be sent to a major hospital or major clinic somewhere where they have a central laboratory to do testing. The first thing they do when they receive this blood sample would be to centrifuge it, at least in 75 to 80% of the time. This is the sample processing needs to be done, sample preparation. It is to centrifuge the sample in order to press all the blood cells into the bottom of the test tube, so you can aspirate the blood, the plasma sample that is in the top, the yellow liquid in which all the blood cells are floating around. Then they will do all the testing on the plasma, the blood plasma, generate a report of the result, send it back to the doctor who studies what came out of it. Then the doctor will call back the patient into his office for a second consultation, and this will typically take 1 to 2 weeks until you then get back, have a discussion about the results. Maybe there's a diagnosis already. Maybe you can, the doctor can prescribe some treatment. Maybe you need further investigation. But typical time to action is 1 to 2 weeks in this part of the world. In other parts of the world, much longer. And the reason why this has to take so long time and you have to send the samples to a big laboratory is because of this sample preparation step, which cannot be done at the doctor's office. So in the future, there's a mega trend saying we should do more point-of-care testing. We should generate results, diagnostic results, closer to where the patient is. So imagine in the future where you go to the doctor, he gets to the same conclusion, let's take a blood test and see what's if there are indications of something serious. Then at the doctor's office, you can already deliver the blood sample and test it, because our technology has been incorporated into the chip or cartridge, and this sample preparation splitting the blood cells from the plasma is done automatically as the blood enters the instrument. Then typical time to action could be in something you count in minutes, not in weeks. So AcouSort's business model is to work with partners which are system manufacturers for diagnostic instruments or cell therapeutics systems. So we would provide our separation or processing modules in for integration into our partners' cartridges that is then sold together with the systems to the end users. The idea is there that each time a patient or a patient sample is processed, you use one of these cartridges. Maybe in some cases you can use the cartridge maybe a few times, 100 times before you have to change it. But nevertheless, it's consumable business and therefore has the potential of very high volumes. So the market within these two focus areas, diagnostic testing and cell therapy, has been estimated to be quite substantial. In 2028, it's estimated that the global point-of-care market is of the order of $67 billion US. And since 75% of all blood samples need plasma separation, it gives a very high potential. Within cell therapy, which is a much newer market, it's still estimated to grow into $6 billion US already in 2030. And remember, currently, such a treatment is up to $500,000 per treatment, and maybe in the future, partly due to our input, this could be done significantly less expensively. So, to summarize a little bit our current focus areas, we scale up technology to meet cell therapeutic demands. we advance strategies and collaborations with point-of-care diagnostics. And then we have a project which I haven't had time to talk too much about, but it is a project that we've just received 26 million Swedish crowns from the EU to develop in order to make this this production technology for our components significantly cheaper, so it's easier to use them for single use. So why invest in AcouSort? Because it's a highly scalable business model with recurrent revenue from consumables. We rest on a validated technology coming out of Lund University. We have a very significant interest from many life science companies in 2 fast-growing markets. And of course, finally, it's very nice to go up every morning and know that you are helping to generate better, better and faster healthcare. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Torsten, for that presentation. Very interesting and a lot of information.
Yes.
So, like you mentioned, cell therapy is a very hot area, but what's the competition like?
Yes, there are, of course, competing technologies that people try to evaluate, but it's difficult to find something that is, you could say, as seamless as our approach. We also do have a couple of, you could say, more direct competitors, but they are, you can say, a little bit different in terms of how they approach. So the areas, most of them, or the 2 I'm talking about, are more bulk-oriented, while we, you can say, we do this microfluidic approach, which is more precise, you can say, and more clean.
And you mentioned that you received a grant from the European Innovation Council of 26 million kroners for the AcouSort project.
Yes.
I want to hear a little bit more about that project.
Yes. This project, or maybe I should start saying that today our products are made, and I brought some of them here. You can see they are not very big. The central parts of these, they consist of a glass part that contains the microfluidic channels where the sample is running. And then to introduce this ultrasound, we have piezoceramic crystals that we glue onto these or mount them together. This is a very good technology and works very well, but for scaling to really large volumes, it's a little unpractical, and also to get the price really low, production price. We would like to do this in plastic and with thin films instead of the bulk piezo crystals. And we've got all this money from the EU to actually do this transition. This is the result of a project that actually ends today, 4-year project that we've done with different universities. It's called BioWings, which have laid the ground for this new development of the new type of components.
Exciting.
And that is enabling, hopefully, when we finish this next project, that we can scale up the technology a lot more easily.
Cool. And you obviously also got some questions from the viewers. There's one person here who wants to know, in which areas are your ultrasound technology applicable if you exclude cancer and sepsis?
I mean, you can say that it's in principle applicable everywhere where you also today do do blood tests. I mean, today there's a lot of sicknesses where you will, which you can monitor from taking a blood test and separating out the plasma and then doing measurements on the plasma. And any of those are applicable for our tests. We have collaborations also where we monitor people who are in hospital and where they get antibiotics, and you monitor the level of antibiotics in the blood to make sure you have the right level. And this can be done much more easily using our technology for the sample preparation just another example.
Yeah. And there's another person wondering, since you received this grant from the EU, does that mean that your technology is unique, or why did you receive this grant?
It's a very, very, very difficult to get those grants. So you have to have something really unique. So yes, I have to say that is the case. And also, and also you have to have something that's really scalable. That's the sort of two major criteria, so that the technology is really something special and that the potential is really something special. That's the combination of the criteria that you need to fulfill.
And you guys recently participated at Medica, which is one of Europe's leading exhibitions, medical exhibitions. What was the response like there?
We met a lot of companies there interested also in our technology. We basically had two representations, actually. One, because we were invited by the EU to be part of the common EU booth. And we also had our own booth where we displayed as a sub-supplier, which is our main business model. And I think we got some very nice leads and also met with some of the potential collaborators that we've seen before, but are now more ready to engage. So that
it's quite important for companies in medtech to be at these great exhibitions, right?
Yes, it's. I mean, we pick up most of our leads through international conferences where we exhibit. So it is very important. Of course, some people also find us just on the internet, but the person-to-person
is the best way.
Is the best way.
Yeah.
Yes.
One very interesting market that you wanted to enter is Japan, but unfortunately, due to the pandemic, this got delayed.
Yes.
How's that coming along now?
Yes, I mean, this fall, finally, Japan was now open again to foreign visitors. So we went there as soon as we could and re-engaged with the distributor that we engaged in late 2019, so just a few months before the pandemic. We did also actually interact with them and had virtual demonstrations, and we sent out equipment to the distributor to go out and do the demonstrations in the meantime. But we now have the possibility to go back and support this process a lot.
To continue with the project, yeah.
Yes.
And what would you say is the biggest challenge for a company like AcouSort?
Oh, I think one of the big challenges is, of course, that processes within the controlled industry, like medical devices, a very controlled industry, they are quite long. So it typically takes 3-4 years to develop and get a new piece of equipment registered and ready for the market. And this is, of course, a relatively long time period when you from you start on an actual product development. And that's a challenge for small companies like us. But I mean, we hope very much that already next year we will have the first product, not us, but our partner, one of our partners will have their first product on the market containing our technology. And that would be a very interesting and big event.
Speaking about the future, where do you hope to see your company in, let's say, 5 years?
In 3 to 5 years, we very much hope that we've established our technology as the gold standard for automated sample preparation of especially blood, but also other bio samples or cells that comes out of humans. So that is where we see ourselves to become the leading provider of such technology.
Let's speak a little bit about patents, because this is very important in your field, obviously. And your patent application received national approval in the US, right?
Yes, we had one of our patents doing that quite recently, I think in August, yes.
Yeah, and there's a question, someone in the audience wants to know, can you explain your patents and for how long they are exclusive?
Yes, I mean, patent coverage is in general exclusive in 20 years from you file them internationally. Then some of this period, you can say, goes away because it usually takes a couple of years, or 3 or 4 maybe sometimes, before you actually get them awarded. So for at least 15, 17 years, they are exclusive. And now this one patent is, of course, very nice. It's always very good to get patents approved, and now this one is going to be issued in the States. But AcouSort has a portfolio of 7 or 8 patent applications. 2 or 3 of them have made it to being issued, and we're still working, of course, on the others. And every year we submit 1, 2, 3 new patent applications, because we keep developing and keep also innovating, and therefore keep increasing our patent portfolio all the time.
Thank you. And what's your financial situation like right now?
It's pretty okay. I mean, we had a very successful emission in October last year, and that was pretty good timing. So we anticipate we can run at least into 2024 before we may need additional cash. But of course, it depends on what happens in the meantime. If this could be even later, we don't know.
Is there a lot of soft funding that you guys can apply for still?
Yes, I mean, now we got this very large grant, so there's also and this those soft funding grants are a little bit different. Some of them are 50% coverage of expenses. Others, like this, is actually 100%. So this will keep our, you can say, more fundamental research and development funded for the next 3 years, actually. But we will, of course, also continue to look for more opportunities. But this one is one of the really good ones.
And final question, Torsten, is there any triggers or anything that you think investors should keep an eye out when it comes to AcouSort?
I would always look for more collaborations with international life science players, like the one we published the existence of a couple of weeks ago. Developments in the current ones or new ones coming. And of course, as I mentioned, hopefully sometime next year that our the first product will hit the market containing our technology.
Thanks for presenting today, and I look forward to keep an eye out on your company.
Thank you very much.
Och tack till er där hemma. Vi är alldeles strax tillbaka efter en liten kort paus.